Tessa Blanchard, the Impact Wrestling World Champion, now former Impact Wrestling World Champion, has been terminated by Impact Wrestling and stripped of the Impact Wrestling World Championship. 2020, by the way, just if it's not one thing, it's something else. This year never ceases to amaze, just week never ceases to amaze. But last night, late last night, Impact Wrestling announced that they have terminated the contract of Impact Wrestling World Champion Tessa Blanchard and stripped her of the Impact Wrestling World Championship. Now, Tessa Blanchard has not competed since the COVID-19 lockdown was enforced in the United States. Due to her residing in Mexico, there was issues of her travelling over from Mexico to the likes of the United States or Canada, where Impact tapes the majority of their tapings. It's been reported by PW Insider and other outlets that Impact Wrestling had actually requested that Tessa Blanchard record her promos and send them to Impact to air on their weekly television show on Access TV. However, when this was the case, Impact Wrestling officials did not hear back from Tessa Blanchard when requests were made and were met with silence from their world champion. It had been announced that Tessa Blanchard would return at Slammiversary to defend the Impact Wrestling World Championship in a 5-way contest. However, this will now no longer be the case. Now, Impact Wrestling released a very short statement late last night, which said the following, quote, "Impact Wrestling has confirmed it has terminated its relationship with Tessa Blanchard and stripped her of the Impact Wrestling World Championship," end quote. That was it. So very short statement, very surprising. This certainly came out of nowhere. She had been announced to be returning to Impact Wrestling soon at Slammiversary to defend the World Championship. So it was certainly out of the blue. Not a lot of people saw it coming. I certainly didn't see it coming. Very, very surprising. Now, it has been reported by the likes of Sean Ross Sapp and other people that Tessa Blanchard's contract was soon to be expiring. I don't have a firm confirmation as to when that contract was set to expire. So some people have suggested that maybe Impact have sort of tried to jump the gun a little bit here and try and beat Tessa Blanchard to the punch, shall we say, in terminating her contract before it expired and before Tessa Blanchard could perhaps walk out on the company. That's pure speculation on my part, though, and other people's part. So we'll have to wait and see on this. Now, as I mentioned, it's certainly surprising. It certainly came out of the blue. Now, we haven't seen her on Impact for a while due to the lockdown and quarantine issues. As I mentioned, she currently resides in Mexico with her fiancé, soon-to-be husband. But those travel restrictions have been lifted recently. We've seen lots of people travel from Mexico over to the United States or over to Canada. And she was announced to be coming back at Slammiversary just a couple of weeks ago to be defending the Impact World Championship. So everyone was under the assumption, I certainly was, under the assumption that things were fine, that there weren't any issues between her and Impact Wrestling. This looks to be something that's happened in the last few weeks and has been bubbling under in the last few weeks, so it's certainly come out of nowhere. Now, when it comes to the travel from Mexico to the United States or to Canada, we've seen just this past week alone, Pentagon Jr. appear on AEW Dynamite this week, so he had to travel from Mexico to the US. That's why he wasn't on AEW Dynamite for the last few months or since quarantine and lockdown began. So travel from Mexico to the US is a lot easier and possible now due to the travel restrictions being lifted. Even though Impact Wrestling tapes the majority of their content in Canada or is based in Canada, I think the same issues it's the same there. Travel from Mexico or other countries has been lifted slightly, so it's easier to get from one place to the other. But it's essentially the same principle there. Tessa Blanchard was able or was now able to travel over from Mexico to the US or to Canada to compete for Impact Wrestling. Hence why she was advertised and announced for Slammiversary to be defending the Impact Wrestling World Championship. Now, of course, whenever a professional wrestler leaves any professional wrestling company, all professional wrestling fans, media, and analysts, the first thing they say is, where are they going to go next? Where is next for Tessa Blanchard? Which company will she go to next? Now, there has been interest in the past from the likes of WWE and AEW. However, this is very, very different and difficult when it comes to Tessa Blanchard. Now, given the current climate that we're in right now, when you think of the Black Lives Matter movement, you think of all of this stuff, bullying and all of those allegations. Do you think any major professional wrestling company, so I think of WWE, AEW, maybe Stardom in Japan, do you think they would be willing to sign Tessa Blanchard Now, Tessa Blanchard has been met with allegations of racism, bullying, and other allegations in the past. They surfaced in around January of this year, prior to her becoming the Impact Wrestling World Champion at the Hard to Kill pay-per-view. It was only a matter of days before she became World Champion, days prior, that these allegations came out. Now, given those allegations, given the baggage that comes with her, she's been met with allegations of poor behavior and difficult to work with and bad attitude issues in the past. Given all of that baggage and allegations that come with Tessa Blanchard, would any major company be willing to sign her? I think it would certainly be a massive, massive PR risk to sign Tessa Blanchard at this moment in time. If I was running a professional wrestling company at the moment, I certainly would be hesitant. Now, I've said in the past, and I've absolutely said this in the past, that I thought Tessa Blanchard would be a fantastic addition to the AEW roster. She'd be the one to really take that female division up a level, and she'd be the one to build that division around. The AEW women's division hasn't been the best since AEW began and since Dynamite began last October. It's certainly been improving recently, especially in the year 2020, without a shadow of a doubt. I think the current women's champion, Hikaru Shida, Nyla Rose, Britt Baker, Amadon. How great is Amadon, by the way? She is terrifying, but amazing. I think they're all fantastic starts for that female division, and it's certainly getting better and better every single week. Now, when you compare it to other divisions, and people are going to say, oh, you can't compare AEW to NXT. You absolutely can. They're on the same time. They air at the same time on the same day every single week. Everyone compares their ratings. They counter-program each other. You can absolutely compare them. And when you do compare NXT to AEW, a thing that people do talk about a lot is NXT's women's division is far superior to AEW's women's division. It's always been the case. And it's always been an issue that people throw at AEW to say, yeah, your women's division sucks. And it did in the past. It was terrible to watch. The booking didn't make sense, the stories didn't make sense, and it was just very, very bland. But that's not really been the case in 2020. AEW has certainly made great strides in improving their female division, and it is getting better every single week. I think the Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose match at Double or Nothing for the AEW Women's World Championship is the best women's match in the history of AEW since it began. I think Britt Baker, in her role model character, in her Rolls Royce, her vignettes, her promos, her interviews with Tony Schiavone, I think Britt Baker is one of the best characters, male or female, on AEW Dynamite right now. So the female division in AEW is certainly getting there. But in the past, I had advocated that Tessa Blanchard would be the perfect person to build that division around and take the AEW female division up a level. However, that was all before the allegations of bullying, racism, and much more came out about Tessa Blanchard early this year, prior to her becoming the Impact Wrestling World Champion at Hard to Kill. Now, considering we're in the middle of the Black Lives Matter movement, and considering how tense and a huge issue that race and racism is globally right now, you've got protests going on all the time. And it's always been a huge and important issue, but it's even heightened now, and rightfully so. The Black Lives Matter movement, I'm completely behind. Given all of that and the current climate that we're in 2020, would AEW or WWE be really willing to touch someone that comes with that amount of baggage and allegations of racism and racist behavior? I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's a massive, massive, massive PR risk for any company that takes her. You have to weigh up and balance the talent versus the allegations and the baggage that comes with it. And I think the allegations will win here. I really do. Now, I understand that Tessa Blanchard would be a great addition to the AEW roster and be a great fit for that AEW women's division. But you've also got to remember, Tony Khan was very public when he banned the likes of Hulk Hogan and his wife Linda Hogan based on Hulk Hogan's past racist comments that came out in 2015 on those leaked audio and videotapes. He was very, very adamant. You'll never come into an AEW show for what you said in the past. I don't forgive you for what you said in the past. To me and to others, Tony Khan would look incredibly hypocritical if he then signed someone who is alleged to have made racist comments and engaged in racist behavior in the past. That would look very hypocritical. You ban Hulk Hogan, but you pay one of your wrestlers top money to compete. It's difficult. It's very, very difficult. Now, Tessa Blanchard, of course, was with WWE in the past. She was part of WWE Developmental. But By all accounts, they let her go due to attitude issues and numerous other problems. Now, I must say, along with the racist allegations and the bullying allegations, Tessa Blanchard has denied that she was let go from WWE due to attitude issues and behavioural issues in the past, but numerous reports have refuted this and said that she was absolutely let go of from WWE due to this reason, due to behavioural issues and behavioural allegations against her. Now, would WWE really be willing to go there again on top of the allegations of racism and bullying in the current climate? Again, I don't think so. You know, WWE is a publicly traded company. It's a billion-dollar company. On top of the bad press that they're getting for the awful way that they're handling the COVID-19 situation at the moment and the testing that's going on with WWE at the moment, would WWE really be willing to make a signing of someone that is alleged to engaged in racist behavior, done racist comments, bullying, harassment, behavior issues? There's a lot of baggage there. I just don't think WWE would be willing to touch that. Now, some people are going to say, well, this is the same company that has had questionable storylines in the past, has issues the way they've treated black superstars in the past. They've rehired Hulk Hogan and put him into the Hall of Fame, and he's appeared on numerous TV shows and pay-per-views since he made those racist comments. But you have to say that, is Tessa Blanchard the level of Hulk Hogan? Does she have the star power of a Hulk Hogan? She absolutely doesn't, but it's a valid point nevertheless. Maybe WWE would be considering to bring her in. Now, of course, Tessa Blanchard, this is what people forget about her. She's only 24 years old. So there were certainly mistakes that she would have made at a younger age. It doesn't excuse the mistakes that she has made, but it's something to consider also. There is certainly time for her to grow, to mature, and to get better in the way that she conducts herself. Now, if I were her, I would just stay in Mexico. I've mentioned before, she lives in Mexico with her fiancé, soon-to-be husband. It's been part of the reasons for the issues she's had with Impact Wrestling recently and why she hasn't been on TV recently, is that travel from Mexico has been difficult. If I were her, I would stay in Mexico, lay low for a while, let the dust settle there. We're in a pandemic, so you can take your time, okay? Obviously, financial issues, it depends what she's in at the moment. I don't know. I wouldn't like to speculate on that. But we're in a pandemic. You can take your time. If I were her, she's already in Mexico. I think she should go to a company like AAA. She can work there. She'd be an absolutely huge star there. You've got to remember, she is the first ever female to hold a men's world championship in professional wrestling history. Now, when that happened in January, on top of the allegations made against her, she made major mainstream news coverage, not just mainstream sports coverage, but mainstream news coverage of the fact that she was the first ever female to hold a men's world championship in professional wrestling. That was a big deal. So she's always going to have that feather in her cap and that notoriety when it comes to whoever decides to sign her. So if she were to go to a AAA, she'd be a massive star there for that alone. But she's also a big star in professional wrestling because of her father, because of her heritage. She's got Tully Blanchard as her father. Is it Magnum TA is her uncle? She's got pedigree. She's got heritage within the business. Now, I know what some people are saying. Some people are saying, well, Tully Blanchard is, of course, a manager, or they call them coaches, don't they, at the moment in AEW? Surely he would be able to get her into AEW, no problem. I really don't think it's the case. I think that's oversimplifying things massively. Tully Blanchard is just an on-screen performer. He might help some people behind the scenes, but he's an on-screen performer at most. He doesn't have the pull or the stroke in AEW to get her into the company without no problems. He might be able to facilitate a meeting between Tessa Blanchard and between Tony Khan, but that is probably what he can do at most. So I think some people that are saying that just because Tully Blanchard works in AEW at the moment, that means Tessa Blanchard is going to come to AEW, I think that's way too simplistic. I think that's oversimplifying things, and I don't think it's going to be that easy at all. As I mentioned, I think she should go to AAA, she'd be a massive star there, because of her name, because of her heritage, because of what she's done in professional wrestling, because she was the first ever female to be a men's world champion. She'd get great money, absolutely great money, she'd get great media attention in Mexico. You've got to forget how over professional wrestling is in Mexico. It is huge. The media coverage that she would get there would be great, and she can build up her reputation again and let some of this heat die down. As I mentioned, she's 24 years old. She's got time to grow, to get better. She's already great in the ring and great on the mic, and it's an absolute total package, and she's a huge star. Imagine how great she would be in 3 or 4 years' time. once you hopefully get over these maturity issues, these reported maturity issues, and these attitude allegations, and especially some of the more other serious allegations levied against her. But of course, I could be wrong here. AEW or WWE might be willing to take the risk. When AEW and WWE, they're in a war on Wednesday nights, perhaps they're looking to get all the star power that they can. If this were December of last year, I'd say AEW should absolutely take the risk. But given the current climate that we're in, given the allegations levied against her, given the negative press that professional wrestling is getting anyway in the state of Florida when it comes to the testing, when it comes to the pandemic, should professional wrestling even be ongoing at the moment? All of that stuff, I don't know if from a PR point of view, you'd really want to put your foot in it again by hiring someone that is so controversial or has so many allegations levied against him. It's a very, very, very difficult one for me, but I could be wrong. AEW or WWE could be willing to take the risk. I have heard reports that they're both interested. It's going to come down to balancing if they want to weigh up the talent versus the allegations. That's exactly what this one is going to come to. But of course, I could be wrong. Of course, she might sign with AEW next week. Who knows? I don't know what her release clause is like, so I don't know what her non-compete clause is like. From what I've heard, she doesn't have a non-compete clause, so she could appear on a promotion next week. Who knows? We've got the Great American Bash coming up next week. We've got Fyter Fest coming up next week. Maybe they'll take the risk. If I was in charge, I'd certainly be hesitant, but that's just me. But of course, this is just one man's opinion. What do you think about the departure of Tessa Blanchard from Impact Wrestling? Do you think she'll go to WWE? Do you think she'll go to AEW? Or do you think the allegations levied against her in the past are too much for her to sign with either company? Would you be willing to take the risk? Let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video, along with another video for you to watch. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms that are on the screen right now. That's Twitter at 365Wrestle and at WrestleNews365 on Facebook and Instagram. So be sure to give us a follow there for all the latest news and updates, or you can go to WrestleNews365.com for all the latest news, updates, articles, and a lot of other fun stuff there too. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you've come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.